If you made some noise before, get ready to make even more, because I'm going to hand over now to the star of the show, the father of the bride.
Welcome everyone. Thank you for being with us today. We did consider a live stream for this because we know a lot of you prefer to work from home on Fridays. But thank you for turning up in person. There are a few people I'd like to mention who have made a special effort to travel a long way to be here. So I'll start with Lindsay and Connor, who have travelled here from their home in Gibraltar. Lindsay is Mhairi's great friend from her teenage years when they trained together with their beloved coach, Seb O'Malley, at Musselburgh Athletics Club. We've also got Ash here, and Ash came to Scotland. Ash is from Norway. She lives in Hammerfest, which is actually inside the Arctic Circle. Hammerfest is the most northerly city in the world. Look it up on the map. Anyway, Ash came over and spent a year in East Lothian at school, and while she was here, she trained doing athletics with Mhairi and Lindsay, and so Ash is here with us today. I'd also like to thank Ruth, Bernard and Leo, who've travelled here from Vienna. Leo has a claim to fame. Leo is, without doubt, the biggest Hearts fan in Austria. Leo is my godson, and my other godson, Alex, is also here today. Alex travelled all the way from Fairmont Head. and some of you, I know, will think that Alex is a very intelligent boy, because Alex has resisted all my attempts to turn him into a Hearts fan. I'd also like to thank Lisa and Daniel, who they've come here from Copenhagen. Lisa and Daniel used to be neighbours of Mhairi and Andy, and they promised me they didn't move to Copenhagen because of the neighbours. And I'd also like to thank Mel. Mel worked at KPMG with Andy, and she's travelled here from her home in Australia. So I actually think it's worth saying that, particularly with Ash from the Arctic Circle and Mel from Australia, we actually have people from 2 of the 4 corners of the globe. So today was what a special moment for me, walking Mhairi down the aisle. When you're a guy who's got 2 daughters, it's something you imagine you might do one day, and wow, what a special moment, and something I will treasure for the rest of my life. Mhairi, wow, God, she looks beautiful, doesn't she? Hold your head while let your heart out. I'm very proud of the lovely young lady that Mhairi has become. Mhairi is so kind and generous. I have one particularly fond memory of, it was actually during lockdown when Mhairi and Beth moved back home with her parents, and it was April, so quite early on in lockdown. It was my birthday, and you couldn't do anything, so I thought my birthday's going to be a complete non-event. But Mhairi had other ideas, and together with the help of Beth and Margaret, They put together, it's just such a good birthday. We had espresso martini cocktails, we had games, we had a quiz, and they even got Alexa playing 80s tunes and got me up dancing. It was just a birthday I will never forget, and that was all thanks to Mhairi's thoughtfulness and generosity. Mhairi, I've got to say, as well, has done an incredible job of organising today. We've all tried to support her, but she was very much the lead project manager. So I can't believe what a fantastic job she's done. I'm also very proud of the fact that Mhairi, at the tender age of 30, has had not one but two successful careers. Firstly as a primary school teacher, and now as a software engineer with Lloyd's Banking Group. And I think what's really nice is that she attributes all her success to her parents. So, yeah, this is such a happy time for me and Mhairi's mum, Margaret. We are delighted that Mhairi has found her life partner, Andy, and they've already created a very happy home with their lovely little miniature dachshund, Daisy, I'm sure some of you have met. So the other thing I'd like to say is we've really enjoyed meeting and getting to know Andy's parents, Susan and Paul, and Andy's sister Rachel. They are lovely people, as I'm sure those of you who know them, I don't need to tell you that. And they've been a joy to deal with in the lead up to the wedding. Susan in particular and Rachel have done an incredible job with all the flowers today. Times like this, we do remember the people who are no longer with us. In particular, I'd like to mention Andy's granny, Elizabeth, who died last year. I do remember how happy she was when she found out that Mhairi and Andy were getting married. She had a great relationship with Mhairi from the word go. I'd also like to mention my father, Mhairi's grandpa, Stan, who died last year. What's amazing is I'm looking at Mhairi wearing that dress, and her grandpa bought her that dress. So I'd just like to take a moment. I'd like you to raise your glasses to those who've touched our lives but are not with us today. To absent friends.
Absent friends.
So, to our newly married couple, I remember Mhairi and Andy met, some of you will have heard, in early 2021, when we were actually still in lockdown restrictions, COVID restrictions. And it's amazing that despite all those challenges, they were still able to find love. But I do know that Police Scotland still have a file open on exactly how many of the COVID rules were broken during the early days of their relationship. So Mhairi told me she had a new boyfriend, and of course, what are the first questions any father asks at a moment like that? Firstly, what does he do for a living? Secondly, what football teams he supports? So, first she tells me he's a chartered accountant. Then she tells me he supports Bonnie Rig Road. boring accountant. And I was delighted when Andy told me quite recently that he's actually a Hearts fan as well. But I'm not sure if that was just to please his prospective father-in-law or because Hearts are top of the league for a change. I was even more pleased when I discovered that Harry's best man, Harry, is also a Hearts fan. So, if you want to join us later on in the bar, the three of us and Leo will all be singing the Claudio Braga song.
I'm already there.
So, back to Mhairi, right? Now, it's fair to say that Mhairi is a chip off the old block. Mhairi and I have very similar personalities, right? We can both be a bit bossy, and neither of us is ever wrong. So we both appreciate good coffee, we both like good red wine, and we both love watching the TV show Married at First Sight Australia. We both love running, and we both like hill walking. And in fact, I was delighted when Mhairi told me that Monroe bagging is actually considered quite cool now. There's a saying that if a newly married man wants to know what his wife will be like when she's older, look at her mother, the mother-in-law. I say, no, Andy, you should be looking at your father-in-law. So, I am only joking, Andy. I am delighted to be welcoming you into our family. Margaret and I are so happy seeing the strength of the relationship that you and I have. I think I've said enough. So, it's time for me to propose a toast. I'd like you all to raise your glasses and toast to the bride and groom.
Thank you, Mike, there for a fantastic speech, and no pressure in following it up now. It's my good friend, my dear friend, the groom, Andrew Mellon.
Hello. So yeah, that was a pretty strong speech, so I'll keep this brief. Good evening all, and may I welcome you here today and formally welcome you along with my wife. So really I've got a lot of thank yous tonight, especially to our parents. And my new parents, my mother and father-in-law, Margaret and Mike, who without their support, this event would not have happened, both contributions and enthusiasm. But especially enthusiasm from day dot, they have been chomping at the bit to get here, so I hope it's living up to all your dreams. As much as ours, of course. It's our dreams. But again, to echo Mike, really the engine here has been Mhairi. She really has worked super hard, and I have been a terrible backseat rider. And she says regularly that the worst part of this wedding has been getting me to it. So congrats to you on all the admin and also managing me. So yeah. It's actually, okay, I'm going to pause there, I've gone ahead. There's gifts, so, gifts? Mike. Yeah, definitely. No spoilers. Yeah, and my parents, who are enormously hardworking and selfless people that have done so much for me in my entire life, but also have welcomed Mhairi with open arms to our family. Yeah, they've done a lot, but also my mum is a woman of many talents, and all the flowers you've seen today at the ceremony, and now. But as a very modest woman, she has to say, there's a very long list of helpers, so if you won't give me a second. Marie, Helen, Auntie Liz, Julie, my dad, and my sister were all equally involved in doing the flowers. So thank you. And also Baby Arthur and all support. So Baby Arthur, well done. So I guess, yeah, gift for gift. Yeah, and Rachel.
What's Rachel?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm not doing horribly well here. My sister gets two thank yous, as she has made countless cakes in the run-up to this wedding. The freezer was full of 20 cakes at one point, and she was still icing them to the very last minute, so she's done an incredible job. Flowers and cakes. Very And now a big cheer for our beautiful bridesmaids. You look absolutely fantastic. You are so important to Mhairi's life. You're such a constant source of support for her, and just so dear to her. And I'm very lucky to have you in my life as well. So thank you guys for all your efforts. Father Jock did a great job in the rehearsal, except for telling me when to say I do. So I thought I did it twice, just to be sure. We had a pretty rigorous vetting procedure. We were over at his house at like 9:30 on a Tuesday, doing 90s couples magazine quizzes. And I hope you can see from my enthusiasm that it's definitely all above board. You can check on Mhairi later on the day, see if you're happy with how she's done. But yeah, thank you so much for the ceremony. Thank you for the nods, which you almost kind of got me through without making a mistake. Thank you. The cousins, Lucy and Emily, spoke so beautifully at the wedding today. Thank you for your bravery. You're doing a much better job than I did. Lucy Cairns, a lifelong friend of Mhairi's, stepped in when it became apparent that our arts and design ability was pretty lacking. No free trial in Canva would have saved us, so all the signage and table decoration here today is done by Lucy, and apparently was an absolute tyrant on the bus getting you here. So thank you for that as well. Uncle Scott, as my new Uncle Scott.
Hey!
my own Uncle Scott, yeah. Done the uncle duty and got loads of equipment set up here. The red light is on, so I assume we're all good. I, for one, will never watch this back. Now, the stars of the show, my handsome, dashing, and not at all gruesome groomsmen who are dotted about the room. Neil, Purdy, and Giles, thank you, gents. It seems the show is running, everyone is here, so you're off the clock. So thank you for that. And thank you for your efforts with Harry getting the stag arranged. We lived the dream. R.I.P. We barely knew you. are. The husband before my wife, my oldest pal, Harry Vokes, best man. Yeah, we've come a long way from teenagers, top to tail in Harry's bed, moaning about how we'll probably die alone, having never felt the embrace of a woman. Well, at least one of us made it. That was classic. No, but seriously, Harry is a very dear friend to me, and I'm so happy he's here. Now, sorry, the real star of the show. I'm told that many grooms make a very big error and they forget to mention their wives. Uncle Peter. Yeah, so I'll just riff this. Mhairi, honestly, I'm so proud to be your husband. I'm so fortunate to have met you, and you make me a much better man. And I'm very blessed to have you in my life, and I can't wait to see what is next for us in our lives together. So yeah, on that note, a massive toast to the new Mrs. Mhairi Miller. I'm done.
I had previously asked Harry to go easy on Malin, but with that dig he had at the end there, feel free to let loose. Without further ado, I'm going to scoot over to the best man, Harry, to dig Malin out.
Thank you. Hello, for those who don't know me, my name is Harry. Andy, thank you very much for your kind words. Seeing as Uncle Scott is recording, I would like it on public record that actually last week I did download Hinge. So we are making progress. Now, I was all ready to come up, I had my speech prepared, and then at the last minute I was thrust upon me a message actually from Australia. So I know, the one thing everyone wants to hear is that I've actually got two speeches to do, but I do have here a little telegram from some relatives who were hoping to be here due to various, I think, geopolitical events, are unable to fly into Australia. Although actually after Mike's speech, it does sound like Mel was able to make the effort, so well done, Mel. I guess some people care more than others. But anyway. So. Mhairi, this is from Malcolm. So it says, Mhairi and Andy, hello from Malcolm, Helen, Bailey and Parker, living on the Gold Coast in Australia. For obvious reasons, we have had to postpone our trip. At least, Mhairi, you will be spared the embarrassing uncle strutting around the dance floor, believing he's Jock Travolta. Although I don't think that's quite fair, so Scott, you have your mission for a mission. It says, I remember the very night some 41 years ago that your mum came home having met Mike. She was super excited and woke me up to say that Mike had asked her out. And should she go? She was asking. Thank goodness she ignored my advice. That's Malcolm's advice, not my advice. I wasn't there. Today is your big day. Enjoy every second. With love, from Malcolm, Helen, Bailey, and Parker. So now, speech number 2. So for those of you who don't know, my name is Harry, and I have the honour today to speak about a man who I have actually known for most of my life, about 28 years now. He's someone who he's actually very, very kind. He's incredibly loyal. I was getting a bit serious a bit early on, but I think it's worth saying it. He, I think is someone for a lot of the boys here. It's always been a time where he's been a bit of a rock, someone you can really rely on. He does sometimes get a bit wound up, as a lot of us know, but it's always for good reason. And he's certainly someone I can always count on. So I would just like to say, Paul, thank you. I'm of course here to talk about Andy. Now, I've known Andy a very long time, and the first thing you should know about Andy is sort of such is the sort of mysterious nature of this man that actually he goes by a number of different aliases, and there'll be a number of people in the room that I'm sure know him by very different names. So his official title, obviously Andrew. To many of you, you will know him as Andy. But he's also gone by other names over the years. Maldo, particular favourite. Big Maldo, that was a tough few years, we don't really talk about it. And of course, I think probably his most infamous title that will be known to many people here, Mhairi. And I'm afraid, Mhairi, tradition dictates that you are now also Malin. So, to Malin and Malin, congratulations. Now, Andy and I, we actually met when we were about 2 or 3 years old, was the first time that we met. And like the good sort of private school boys that we are, we met through our nannies, which is sort of Mary Poppins nanny, not your granddad's wife, like that sort of nanny. And I used to go around to his house and I'd sort of play with his cars and he'd watch The Fox and the Hound on repeat. And we actually, we then both ended up going to the same school, to George Watson's. But as fate would have it, we were separated and we were put into different classes. Indeed. So we actually didn't know each other until in primary 5 we were reunited. And I was actually speaking to Andy earlier this week and I said to him, I was on the phone to him and I said, I don't really remember us speaking very much in primary 5. And he said, no, I didn't talk to you. I thought you were weird. Which I think was probably true. Although clearly Andy also wasn't getting too many best friend applications coming through because I was his best friend. And 20 years later, I'm the best man, so he's still struggling, clearly. The groomsmen are only here because we paid them. But from then on, our friendship really flourished, and Malin, I hope it's not too much of a shock to hear that Andy and I we were probably not the coolest kids in school. I was, just to give you an idea, I was a sort of perpetually nervous geek whose best friend after Andy was actually the playground attendant, and Andy was a rugby obsessive asthmatic with the biggest collection of inhalers in the school. I mean, it was unbelievable. He had all the colours: blue ones, grey ones, red ones. It was pretty amazing. But we sort of we grew up, and he sort of started to turn from Andy into the Malin that we all know and love today, and we sort of entered teenagehood, sort of enthusiastically but ham-fistedly. Just to give you an idea, when we were 16, we decided we would go to tea in the park. We were excited about this because this was going to be. Sorry, Paul. This was going to be quite cool. We were going to tea in the park, and we had 8 cans of strongbow dog food to take into the park. And step one was we had to smuggle it past the security outside the festival, which we did with this sort of attention to detail and paranoia you'd more associate with a cocaine dealer going through the floor. But we got in, and I remember we went to see Swedish House Mafia, who we were very big fans of. And we were sort of there, and we were very excited. We had a whole strongbow each, so we were really going at it. And we were there dancing away, and then actually a couple of girls came up and said, can we sit on your shoulders? To which we obviously sort of went, yes please! And so I remember we were both there sort of bobbing up and down, and we were sort of looking at each other and looking at the band, looking at each other, looking at the band. And I just remember looking up and just seeing the girl, sorry about this, Mhairi, the girl on there, and she was just sort of slowly just dipping down further and further and further. And I sort of looked at Andy, and he was sort of going redder and redder in the face. It was like sort of tomato squeeze between two white baguettes. And you know, I sort of looked to the side, and I thought, what's going on? This is our big moment. And it turned out that the smoke machine itself was asthma. So so rather than spending the night sort of dancing away with a couple of girls, we were in the medical tent. And then with a little dose of oxygen. But on the plus side, he got another inhaler for his collection, so that was good. But you know, oh man, it's funny because that was 14 years ago, and you're sort of here all growing up now, and a married man, and he's still got an inhaler, yeah, he's got a special wedding one, it's got glitter on it, it's fine. You know, actually, I would just at this point, I would also just like to say a few thank yous. I'd like to thank you to Mike and to Margaret for everything that they've done organising, and it's been so lovely to meet you both, it really has. To the bridesmaids, Beth and Holly, thank you for sort of telling me where to stand and making sure I didn't stand next to Mhairi instead of Andy when we were up there. To Paul and Sue as well for everything that you've done. And I mean, I've known you a very long time, and you really have raised an amazing boy, and I know it's not always been easy. But I just think the way that you care for him and Rachel is just so amazing, and the way you both work for your family, I mean, it really is amazing. So, and also just to Mhairi, Joe, it was actually so lovely that I was texting Andy and I was saying, how did I, do you know when Mhairi and I first met? Because I can't really remember. And he was like, I can't really remember either. And then we asked Mhairi, and she said, I can't remember either. And I actually just thought it was actually such a nice sign of just the way we've just, I've just made another friend in you, and you know, I think you're absolutely amazing. You look absolutely stunning. And thank you for putting up with this sort of third wheel that's been hanging around. And Andy and I DJing in the kitchen at 2 in the morning and sending the dog mental. But I really do see how incredibly happy you make him, and you've made my best friend very happy, and I really thank you for that. I really do. And I look forward to many more years of friendship. Now, I would just finish by saying a few things about Andy. Don't tell him I said this, but I was thinking about him, and I think you'll be an amazing wife. I think he'll be an amazing husband to you. And there's a couple of reasons for this. First of all, he is. I think anyone that knows him, he can be infuriating at times, but he's an incredibly loyal man. He cares for his friends and his family incredibly deeply. Anyone that knows Andy will just know how much his friendships mean to him, how seriously he takes them, how he'll always tell his friends the truth, even when it's even when sometimes they might not want to hear it. And the frustrating thing is, as someone who's been on the receiving end of this many times, he is often actually quite right. He will love you forever. He will take such great care of you, and I feel incredibly lucky to be his friend. I really do. And he's someone who he can never understand how anyone could treat their friends or family badly. Like, he can't even really comprehend how that would happen. And I think that's a very, very good sign. So, Andy, Malin, thank you for making me your best man, and very best of luck to you both. So I would like to just raise a toast to Malin and Malin, the bride and groom. That's it, we can eat now.